There he is, the Master Blaster, the eighth wonder of the world, the one and only Stevie Wonder. Cash in your face at 89.5 FM, KPOO, San Francisco, and all over the globe right now at www.kpoo.com. Wake up, everybody, in the spirit of Terry Collins with your host, Donald E. Lacy. That would be me. And joining me now on the live line is a pleasure to welcome to the KPOO airways for the very first time, I do believe, Ms. Audrey Hope. She's a counselor at Seasons Rehab in Malibu and a relationship expert. Good evening. How are you?
Hey, Don. I love that music.
Thank you.
It was amazing.
Well, thank you for taking the time to join us this evening. First of all, I was somewhat surprised, but then again not, by the information you all sent to me that one of the casualties, if you will, of COVID-19 and the pandemic has been relationships. How has the pandemic affected relationships, in your opinion?
Well, Don, there's so many new topics and new dilemmas going on. You know, it used to be where we're going to go for dinner when we date, or, will I sleep with the guy on the first date? Now it's, should I tell him I'm vaxxed or not? Are we going to meet indoors or outdoors? Are we going to wear a mask? Will I seem too uptight? There are so many problems going on in relationships caused by this dilemma of the vaccine and all of this political divide. It's just mind-blowing.
Wow, yeah, it must be extremely difficult for people who are dating and meeting for the first time, as a lot of young people do, I wouldn't know, are meeting on these various dating apps, etc., with everything going on as it relates to COVID and the vaccine. I can only imagine what it must be like for single people trying to start a relationship.
Absolutely. There's a lot of loneliness going on, and the things that are coming up, like, this guy I'm dating went to a concert, and there were hundreds of people there. Should I tell him I'm upset? Should I bring it up? Would that ruin it? And then in marriages, oh my God, he wants me to get vaccinated, I don't want to. And then that brings up all the other relationship issues. But here's the thing, Don, this is the good thing. When you heal, you have to bring it out into the open in order to see it. So everything's highlighted and magnified. So with relationships, whatever was going on, it's coming out. Maybe you didn't deal with it because you were too busy.
Right.
You were working. You had distractions of life. But all of a sudden, these relationship issues are front and center. And it is going down.
Yes, ma'am. That's the voice of Miss Audrey Hope. She is a relationship expert. I'm wondering, too, since particularly a year or so ago when the lockdown started, and particularly people who were in long-term relationships, now instead of one going to work and the other one going to work, they're kind of stuck with each other. Has the fact that people have been sheltered in and looking at each other 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, has that had an adverse effect on long-term relationships?
Absolutely. Where do I go to get away from him? Where do I find some peace, to have some privacy away from her? Yes, too much time together. It's causing a lot of problems.
Wow. So how would you suggest for people who suffered through that and are still, what are some common sense solutions, if you will, that you could advise people to do?
Well, we all need healing, Don, in this time period. And you can't bury it under the rug. That's like the worst thing you can do. We're in a mass psychosis, a mass PTSD. Every single person is suffering in some way. And you can't say you're okay when you're not. You really have to talk about it. You really have to bring it out in the open, and you have to communicate. You cannot hide it in the closet or under the rug, because that will just create trauma later on. So my first thing is, you got to talk.
Sure.
And you got to be really honest. The great thing about this time period is we have no time to waste anymore.
Yes,
and we are encouraged and inspired to be more real and more authentic and stop with the BS. And that's a good thing about this time period. So you got to deal, and you can't just hide your problems under the rug.
That's very well said, and it makes me think of this question in terms of people seeking experts like yourself and marriage counselors, relationship counselors. I imagine with people being, again, using that word, stuck inside with each other for so long, that maybe more people are seeking people like you to talk about it because the issues that were already there are even more, magnified.
That is true. We, at the rehab, I work at Seasons. We are booked solid. We've been booked through COVID, and my colleagues are booked. That's a good thing because people are reaching out and seeking help. But they might be coming in, let's say, for drinking more, addiction problems, but now it's inspiring all the other stuff to be healed. So, as a nation and individually, we are in an alchemy where we have a chance to transform. We got to take this opportunity. We really do. We got to look at the positive of it. Like, I would like to ask your viewers, how have you changed through these days?
Sure.
What is now most important to you? And if the marriage broke up, well, so it is. Maybe there's some soulmate that's better suited to you. So I would like to say that this is a wonderful time if you change your perspective and really look at the things that have been presented, even though it's painful.
That's, again, the voice of Audrey Hope. She's a counselor at Seasons Rehab in Malibu. And your last name should inspire all of us, right?
Oh, yes. Isn't that funny?
Yeah.
It's funny that's my name, and that's all I do is try to inspire hope, really.
And that's a beautiful thing. I was reading some disturbing statistics when the pandemic and the lockdown first started in 2020, that the uptick in spousal abuse, domestic violence were up exponentially. Have those numbers kind of subsided now that maybe more people are seeking people like you to talk about their issues instead of dealing with them with violence?
I think those numbers are up, Don. I really do. I think those numbers are up, and people dealing with PTSD are up. And it's people are going out of their minds, this thing called caveman syndrome, when you're stuck in the house and you're in your sweatpants and you order things online and you shop online and you don't want to go out. It's a big thing. Causing people to argue and, be very angry and their nervous systems to be affected. So, we are a world in need of healing, and domestic abuse is a very a subject close to my heart. I'd love to work with women on this issue, and so I think those numbers are up.
Wow, I'm sorry to hear that, and I would be remiss if I didn't mention that this is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, by the way, and we need to really support women and people who are in abusive relationships to empower them to take the necessary steps to, save their lives, number one, but get out of that type of situation. Is there like a range of ages that this pandemic has affected, or I should say the age group most affected? Is it people under 30 to 40, or what are your stats telling you?
Well, I'm seeing young kids, they're using dangerous because they're buying stuff off the street. That's a dangerous new trend. What they're putting into the drugs, they're young. And then I have some older clients who are, 70s. I think it's, I wouldn't know specifically, but from what I see, it's every range, really. People of all ages. I work with people of all ages. And things are coming out, things that have long been held in. And if you get with the right people, Don, you can really heal it. If you get the right help, that's wonderful. You don't have to live with pain and suffering. You really don't. There is hope for that with the right team and the right healers.
Yes, there is hope. Audrey Hope, right?
Yes.
I got it.
AudreyHope.com is my website.
Thank you. I was just about to ask for people listening in and might want to contact you who need help. And that's AudreyHope.com. For somebody listening to this interview right now who is in a bad situation, let's just say, what advice would you give them? Should they just immediately try to withdraw from the situation, seek out people like you, or what would you advise?
I would say seek out someone who's really good at healing and work on your self-esteem. You know, the root of all of this is self-love.
Wow.
If you get that piece, it's pretty much across the board, even with domestic abuse. You got to help people love themselves and stop abandoning themselves. I always say it's not what other people do to us that's the problem. It's what we do to ourselves because of it. So the healing ingredient is self-love and getting back into taking our power back with self-esteem. And that's the root of it all. That's the root of all healing.
Wow, that is incredible. That is such a powerful nugget that you just dropped on the listeners. And I want to re-emphasize that. So it's safe to say, based on that people who are, and here's that word again, stuck in an abusive relationship, it's because they need to love themselves more, to empower themselves to do what is necessary to save themselves. Is that fair to say?
Absolutely. And here's the thing, Don. You could say, you could do a lot of therapy, or you can take the group. I've been in groups where I say, I will no longer allow anyone to hurt me ever again, so help me God. Never allow anyone to mistreat me. I will never take crap from anyone. And that is the beginning. Those boundaries of self-love is the beginning of healing.
That is incredible. That's the voice of Audrey Hope. Again, expert, relationship expert, also a counselor at Season Rehab in Malibu. And final question, how long have you been doing this work? And I can just hear in your spirit from talking to you that this is your life's mission.
Guess how long, Don? 20 years.
Wow, good for you.
20 years. And I work on the soul, too. I mean, I work really deep. I love that you said nugget. I'm all about the nuggets.
Yes.
I really believe if you get the core, the root of the root of the root, you're good to go. So I work on that, and I give people that. I give them the root so that they can begin to heal the theme that's really going on. I call it a soul theme. Mm-hmm. And if you can get that pattern, because it just repeats and repeats and repeats, and it usually starts young,
right?
You know, where you lost yourself, and you give that back to the person, it becomes a spiritual thing, because then you're kind of like in a soul retrieval.
Wow, that is fabulous. And if I may, I am inspired by you. I'd like to add you to my list of new sheroes, because I have the ultimate respect and admiration for people like you who are doing things to make people better and make the world better. That's by healing individuals one at a time. I applaud what you do.
Don, I love that you just said one at a time, because that's the way to do it, isn't it?
Yes.
I had a teacher, a 100-year-old teacher once say to me, one person at a time. And that's what I've been doing. Even though I do the media and I do a lot of stuff like that, one person at a time. That's what it's really about, and it's amazing, and it's real, and it's honest, and you share people's journeys.
Yes.
And we are all crucified to resurrect. All of us are crucified. It's just the way of it. It's the journey. Mm. We're all the same on that issue.
Wow.
Really.
Well, listen, it has been such a pleasure to talk to you, and I'm in LA a lot, so when I come down there again, I'm going to try to meet you in person, because you have a great spirit. I encourage you to keep up the fabulous work, and that's AudreyHope.com. Thank you so much for taking time today, and keep up all the great work you're doing. I greatly appreciate you.
Same to you, Don. Same to you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Have a good evening.
Bye.
There she is, another new shero on my list. That's Miss Audrey Hope, AUDREY Hope.com. It's so encouraging to me to hear that there there are people out there who are working to heal people, because all of us are dealing with some form of trauma these days, aren't we not? And this is the day before the anniversary of my daughter's murder.